everybody. Happy new week. I hope you guys are doing amazing. Libby was just saying excitedly, she's also got her other book there next to her. So if you caught that, we will introduce her properly right now. But good morning, Libby. And do you want to tell these guys where you're logging in from today?
I'm zooming in from Canberra, which is the capital of Australia.
Amazing. And she is in her jersey outfit, and you can see it there on the back of the wall. And Libby is the freshly hot off the press published author of Wallaroo 19, you guys. And I'm going to share with you guys what that cover looks like on the screen and give you the official introduction. And then we'll move into, talking about, her writing and what this book is all about and all that sort of stuff. So here's the gorgeous cover, and Libby when she was playing there on the back of the book. So guys, Libby is a third-time author, and she will show you what her other book that she wrote with us first, but her last two books were published through Ultimate 48-Hour Author. And today we're, however, talking about Wallaroo 19, which is a personal reflection of a 10-year period of Libby's life when she played elite sport for Australia. The book outlines the history of women's rugby league and rugby union in Australia in the early 1990s. It is not an autobiography nor an official history. However, it is filled with funny stories, honesty, and some of Libby's blood, sweat, and tears and words whilst playing a game that was traditionally reserved for men. Wallaroo 19 is a celebration of women on the 30-year anniversary of the Wallaroos' first ever test match in Australia. And I know that was a big launch kind of thing that you did a few weeks ago. And do you want to tell us a little bit about all of that?
Thanks, Nat, and hi, everybody. The 2nd of September was 30 years since Australian women played at the international level in that game called rugby union in Australia. So what I was trying to do was publish the book in time, which was good timing, so that we could put something out into the world to celebrate the achievement of women playing rugby in this country.
Wow, wonderful. So tell me, how long did the thought process of, thinking about writing this book to actually doing it happen, and why did it become important, especially for you, rather than say some of your other teammates that were playing?
Yeah, I guess I'm one of those people, Nat. I'm one of those doers. I probably am the person that has the least amount of time to be writing another book.
Yes.
But I think the process of writing my second book and the reward that came after publishing that book really inspired me and encouraged me to do something that was equally as important for me, not for one of my kids, not for someone else, for me.
Yeah. So like kind of telling the story of the legacy of that time of your life. Yeah.
Sorry, Nat, your connection was a bit blurry. I didn't get the question.
I was just sharing, like, so you did it so you can share your legacy from that time of your life and kind of reflect upon it, and never, I guess it starts to go away, doesn't it? We start to make up different stories in our heads of what happened or how it all was, but if you can put it down on paper, those memories never fade.
Yeah, I agree, Nat. I think for me, that period when we were in the lockdown in 2020 and then again in 2021 in Australia, I spent a lot of time locked up in the house with myself and homeschooling 4 young boys. And I guess what I realized was all that time on my own was a really good time to reflect on what was really important to me. And if we never came out of the lockdown, what would be important to me when we came out? Because this story and the history of women's rugby in Australia would not have been done if I hadn't done it. So the Australian Rugby Union write lots and lots of books about men, but still after 30 years, there's not one book that exists about women's rugby union. So yeah, I just figured it was time to take some action and to be a leader and hopefully to inspire some of my teammates and some of those other Wallaroos that have come 10 and 20 and now 30 years behind me to document their story so that we can be leaders in this field and we can show what we're capable of doing, not just on the field now.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And what's been the feedback from some of your teammates and other women playing the game?
I think the feedback's probably equally as rewarding as handing that book to someone for the first time. I heard from a coach of mine that took us to the World Cup in Spain in 2002. He's actually emailed me about 3 times since reading the book, and he's regretting not knowing what the history was and the fight that we had to experience before even meeting him 10 years after we'd started playing. They're the really big rewards when someone says to me, well done, how'd you do that? And the gratitude that comes from people that didn't know. So yeah, to sort of get feedback from old coaches and management and even people in the ARU that had no idea who those key people were to get this sport up and running. And I guess it brings me back to why I needed to do it for me, to personally be able to say thank you to those people that were there on my journey when this sport was really just taking off in Australia.
Yeah. So who do you think the book is ideal for? Like if you were, and what would someone get from reading the book?
Well, I guess someone reading the book's going to get the history. And much like a lot of other sports in this country, women's sport came and went. And even back in the late 1800s, women were wanting to play rugby union, but not allowed. And during wartime, women did come and fill in gaps and were allowed. But when the men came home, we were kicked out of the team again. So we've got periods in Australian history, again, that aren't recorded. There's no official record of when that first girl in Australia picked a ball up and ran with it, because we're women. And sadly, women's sport is still sort of lagging right down here. We've got a long way to go to kind of find that equality between men and women in this sport, but this is a start. So I hope people like Don Parry that read the book and apologised to me and thanked me. I'm hoping that people in, those management positions in the Australian Rugby Union will learn something and learn what we missed out on. Because the book for me today, it can go to people, A, that like rugby, B, that like women's sport, C, kids in sporting clubs that want to grow up and become a Wallaroo. I guess because in my day, I was in my 20s before this sport was even available to me. So these days I see kids that are 5 and 6 and 7, little girls running around playing rugby union. So if this is the only book at the moment that helps those little girls to see the journey that was taken before they've arrived on the scene, I'm hoping that it will help them appreciate the sacrifices that we made.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you guys started it all and it's wonderful. I mean, I think there should be a little kids book accompanying this one for the little people, because they might not read through, such a, more an adult targeted one. So that's just for future thought processing of, loving the game. And, so what else do you think can be done to equal, men and women in this particular sport, or sport overall, wouldn't you say?
I think what happened with the Matildas a couple of years ago, winning that big game, really shifted something huge for women's sport in this country. So I think everybody that's a female athlete has benefited from what the Matildas did. And I just get goosebumps thinking about it, even though I don't even like soccer. I'm inspired by those women and I celebrate what they achieved. But when I compare what's happening with soccer to women's rugby, there's a huge imbalance. So what do we need to do? We need more money. We need more money put into development of women's rugby. We need more exposure. We need a lot of everything. And probably most importantly, we need to grow the playing base so that we've got better players that can succeed on that world stage. Because the Wallaroos at the moment are over in Ireland playing, and they've got about a 5-game series. So that's unheard of in my time. We would have one game every second year. So to have 5 games in one tour is huge, and the experience for that team is great, but we're not winning. And
so we need better quality players.
Yeah, we need more players, but players at the moment are being stolen by other sports who are paying money for women to play sport and to become professional athletes. So really, unless the Australian Rugby Union gets serious about paying women to play and treating them like professional athletes like the men do, we're just going to see more and more women walk away from this sport and go to other sports like AFL and rugby league, where people are paid to train and play.
Yeah, because otherwise, you know, if you don't get an income, how else do you support your life? You know, if then therefore you're treating it as a hobby, therefore you're not training as much because you got to work and look after family or whatever, and then you don't end up winning because you don't have the time on the, you know. So it's like a snowball effect, isn't it?
There's no comparison. There's not really a comparison, Nat, between the men's experience and the women's, because, you know, we're from different planets and our responsibilities are so different. You know, the women are still the caretakers at home. And the role of the woman in the family unit, you know, isn't equal. I mean, I can only speak for myself.
How did you handle it, or how many years did you play total?
So I first started playing league when I was about 21, when I still lived at home with my parents. So, you know, without that support of mum and dad in those early days, there's no way I would have made it to the top, because I couldn't have afforded to go out and train full time like I did without that security financially behind me. So my best mate that also quit her job and came and trained with me full time, her and her fiance used to rent a house. So he picked up the load that my parents picked up financially for me. So, you know, back in those days, we weren't paid anything. We borrowed jerseys to play to all look the same on the field. So we were playing in a different generation and a different era, because we weren't there for money. We were just there for the fun.
And the love of the sport. And how have things changed? So it's been 30 years now. Have things changed at all?
Well, I guess sadly, Nat, there's no connection between the classic Wallaroos and the current team. So they don't know us and we don't know them. And for me, when you don't know where your roots are, you can't really understand the history of what you're doing and the importance of putting this jersey on and standing up there and singing the anthem and representing your country. So maybe there's something there that the ARU, the Australian Rugby Union, may see as a gap into trying to help this current era of players to come back and connect to where it all started. Like for me personally, have I not done that own research on my family heritage and, you know, had a look where I came from and what those parts of me and how important they are? If I didn't understand them, I wouldn't be able to be the best me.
Perhaps writing this book might bring that connection, and awareness to people, players that are just starting out?
Well, I mean, the thing is, Nat, that someone would have to pay for the book. And I don't even know if the Australian Rugby Union are prepared to do that and give the current players a copy of the book. Because unless they get a copy of the book, they don't know the story. This is the only story in print. So
that's right.
Let's see.
Let's see. Approach them. You never know. There might be someone who would sponsor it. And that's kind of where usually money comes from in sport, is usually from sponsors, and and I guess you got to run it like a business, like even sporting teams. I mean, I'll look at my son's football club, and it's being supported by the parents and a few local businesses that are sponsoring. You can see the plaques and the logos and all that sort of stuff. So that's where it kind of comes from. But they're always, when you get someone who is quite proactive and driven, it's like you got to provide the marketing. And the thing is, who is willing to invest time if that time is not compensated in some way?
Yeah. Well, me. It's me.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've done that, and I'm so proud of you. So tell me, how long did it take to write? Like, what's the process you used to write this one? Because the first one that we did together, Half a Heart, you have a copy there?
I do, yeah,
to show?
it's this one.
There's that one, A Mother's Guide to Navigating Fontan Surgery. It's about Libby's son. And so, that one you came away to a program and all that sort of stuff. What about this one? How did you tackle the discipline? Because you were just going through publishing for this particular one.
Yeah, I think what I experienced in that Half a Heart book was from the first day of retreat to the last day of retreat. I think physically being in person at a retreat can't be underestimated. The value of being with the group, the support of the group, that warmth of the 24-hour family. That's what inspired me to get in and get that book done. That book was published before I got to the 6-month milestone, and I was happy. It was a big achievement. But this one, I actually signed up to do the second book on the last day of the retreat. And as you know, Nat, this book has taken me almost 5 years to get into people's hands. So, the poo-poo bit of the pandemic was that it changed my life. This third book of mine was not the book that I started to write. There's another book in me yet, but this book, I'd say, probably took me about 12 months to write. The idea came to me during the pandemic, but I was off again, on again, trying to manage my life and my commitments and keep this at top priority, knowing that the 30-year anniversary was my goal. So this one, I've dragged the chain. I'm really glad that I got over the line. But I think the fact that I didn't attend a retreat in person probably had a lot to do with the length of time it took me to get it finished, because
we do notice that, and that's why about 2.5 years ago I actually started to allow my ultimate authors who did the big program to return to, even though our retreats are currently online, there's still a very big difference. I know you haven't done one online, but maybe for your next one, you're welcome to, at no cost, attend one for the timelining and for that camaraderie that is with a group. And we see such a big difference in the speed of execution, when someone is in an intense setting over 3 days, getting the work done and then staying together with that group through all the goals, versus someone completely on their own. And I commend you, I mean, for staying so disciplined to see this through to the end, because some people like just let it all just fall to the wayside, so well done.
Yeah, I think that little sisterhood that was formed in the retreat, that little group of my sisters, my author sisters, who we're still connected today, we would meet in person and bring our drafts and brainstorm and push each other and encourage each other. So, for anyone out there that has the opportunity to do a in-person retreat, pay the money. it's worth it.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So where can people get the book? Let's share your website. I'm just going to share my screen, and libbyandrew.com.au is where you would go. Just spelled normal, Libby Andrew .com.au. This is the website here. You can read a bit about the book, about Libby, and get that copy. I love that photo of you. Were you about 21 there in that one?
I'm about 27 there. That's a World Cup in Holland. Yeah.
Yeah, and some cool photos down
My
here.
kids asked me
I
who
love
that was.
They do? They ask you who that? Well,
Yeah,
looks
they
exactly
didn't know who that was apparently, but they are boys.
that, boys. Yeah. I love it. I love it. Very cool. So that's where you can get a copy, you know, a piece of Australian history about this particular sport. You know, well done on taking the leadership role and stepping up and completing a project like this. I think, you know, if you can take that next step, blast it through the media and contact the people who are kind of, you know, at the top of what they're doing within this area. We don't know where it will take us and the sport, and in 10 years things may be completely different.
I think, Nat,
Absolutely.
one of the biggest rewards so far, my dedication I did to 4 women who organised a World Cup back in 1991 in the UK. And a bit like most other women's sports back in, you know, the last century, they were cancelled at the drop of the hat by men. So 90 days prior to the Women's Rugby World Cup in 1991, the World Cup for women was cancelled. The money was cut, the funding was withdrawn, and 12 countries that were supposed to meet were told, you're
not playing.
Yeah.
No.
So there were 4 English women that got together and said, no, we're gonna organise this. And they did. And without the motivation and the work that was put in by those women, I don't think I would have played for Australia at the first World Cup in 98. And I don't think I would have played for Australia in that first international 30 years ago, because our men's team, the Wallabies, in 1991 were on the top of the world. We were winning every single thing that went. And I think the pressure that was put on those men and the Australian Rugby Union back in those early 90s to sort of say, your blokes play all right, but where are the girls? Because in 1991, there was a World Cup and clearly we weren't there. There was another World Cup 4 years later and we weren't there. So it was 1994 that the Australian Rugby Union said, we'll let them play, but we'll rock up late to the game. We'll give them our second-hand jerseys and we'll just see how they go. So, you know, women fight for things that are important. And, yeah, I'm inspired by those 4 ladies that got that World Cup up and running for 12 countries to come and participate. And for the pressure I think that would have put on the men at the top of the Australian rugby in this country that kind of went, this is a bit embarrassing. Everyone's asking where we are. We're actually pretty good. You know, we had no coaching, we had no experience, and we got out there and our first international, we got 5th in the world. That's awesome. Yeah, we've got some catch up to do and there's work to do, but there's World Cups approaching and there's lots of opportunities for women, and it's up to the Australian Rugby Union now and maybe the public to put pressure on to say that we actually want this sport to stay.
Yeah. When is the next World Cup?
In 3 years. It's in England.
Okay. Well, good timing for this to come out so there can be some action that, you know, gets put into play. That's really cool. Let's finish off on a funny story or something, a story of when you played in your days. Do you want to share one of them for us before we sign off for today?
I guess one of the funny things that came up as a result of printing the book was in Spain in 2002 after our grand final. You know, there's celebrations and some of us get a bit more carried away than others. But that following morning, some people, mates, were due at the airport and we couldn't quite shift them. So I actually am pretty naughty. I got the fire extinguisher off the wall and I went down the corridor and just blasted people with the foam that wouldn't get up.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, a naughty thing that I probably wouldn't do, but we were on a pretty big high. And
Oh,
I got
yeah.
in big trouble from the manager. And in fact, we got fined. And I had to pay the cleaning bill in the hotel. But I put the story in the book and I actually apologized to the team for, you know, any sort of disrespect that might have come onto our team because of something that I did.
Yeah.
And a couple of people have sort of contacted me to say, Lib, it's okay. You don't need to, you know, try and make amends for something or tell a story that happened on tour, because what goes on tour stays on tour. But it was nice to get a response from the manager, who was really cranky at me that morning and told me I had to pay for the cleaning fee, to say that he thought it was actually quite funny.
I love it. That's awesome. And something you'll never forget, right? On the all day. That's really cool. Well, thank you so much for sharing, you know, your insight, your wisdom, your passion about, you know, the future of this sport and what it means for women. And, you know, hope the right people have heard this interview or will hear it, because we'll share it everywhere. Get some copies of the book into hands of players that are just playing or wanting to play or interested in playing, so that they can understand it a little bit more. And I really wish you every success. I know you'll be in our lives for a while to come. But yeah, for everyone else out there, I hope you've been inspired on this Monday morning. And what do we want to say at the end, Libby? We're going to smash it out, right? All right, everybody. Yeah, everyone needs to, you know, we all have different things we're going to do. So get out there and take some action for whatever your passion is and whatever cause you want to drive, because people make the difference. You know, it's not by sitting back and just observing and being on the sidelines. So be a leader and step up. See you guys. Bye.
Thanks, Nat.